what's up?
People love to compare the greats online. As we all know, Beyonce is one of the best musicians of the decade, and this is an undeniable ranking. She really is number one, and this isn't just my opinion. This is based off of Billboard and my opinion, so don't beat me up. I noticed there was a lot of angry discourse online with people believing that Taylor Swift should be ranked number one because of her cultural impact with her music and her ability to break the charts. But the way Taylor breaks the charts is more so manipulative. Taylor Swift has mastered the art of working the Billboard charts to her advantage. And honestly, it's a genius move, whether you see it as clever or as gaming the system. With her re-recordings like Fearless, Taylor's version, and Red, Taylor's version, she's not just reclaiming her music, she's creating a whole new era for her fans to obsess over. These re-releases flood the charts because fans stream them non-stop to support her ownership battle. Add in multiple vinyl editions, exclusive bonus tracks, and limited time merch bundles, and basically, she's giving her fans every reason to buy the same album 2, 3, or even 4 times. Billboard rules don't really punish this kind of thing, so she's breaking records left and right, even if it feels a little like she's playing a game with the system. Critics have pointed out that this strategy isn't just about music, it's about dominating. By releasing dozens of versions of the same album, she boosts her sales artificially, skyrocketing her chart position. The vinyl trend is another power move. Fans love collecting the different editions, which means her numbers soar every time she drops another variant. Sure, it might feel a little like stacking the deck, but she's not breaking any rules, just bending them, in a way seemingly only Taylor doesn't get bashed for doing. Taylor is an icon in her own right, but if you would have told me 10 years ago that Taylor would have surpassed someone like Katy Perry in becoming an icon and having longevity, I wouldn't have believed you. Now you may ask, why? It's because the early 2010s was ultimately Katy's years beyond imagination. She is a staple in music for that era. The early 2010s was Katy Perry's playground, and she didn't just thrive, she dominated. She became the pop princess everyone either wanted to be or couldn't escape. One of the Boys was her introduction to the world. Not taking herself seriously, but being grungy mixed with a pop sound was really perfect in the world of cheap glasses, ugly clothes, and vibes. It was the perfect blend of a rebellious spirit and playful femininity, making it an ideal fit for the early 2000s pop rock landscape. The album released in 2008, the album introduced Katy as a fresh voice with a cheeky edge, offering songs that mix quirky humor, emotional vulnerability, and unapologetic boldness. Tracks like I Kissed a Girl, Hot and Cold tapped into the playful, boundary-pushing energy of the time, striking a chord with an audience craving something bold and different. The era's aesthetic leaned heavily into tomboyish charm with a wink of pin-up glam. Think vintage-inspired dresses, smirky lyrics, and slightly ironic take on femininity. It hit at a moment when artists like Avril Lavigne and Pink were dominating with their rebellious, no-nonsense personas, but Katy managed to carve out her own lane. She was very groundbreaking for the moment. Her single I Kissed a Girl is still one of her most memorable moments in music and her most popular song. The album in general is just fun and anti-pop while still being pop, pushing the boundaries for topics. It had a bubblegum edge. But it wasn't until Teenage Dream, the glorious Teenage Dream, that flipped the switch for Katy and became a full-on phenomenon. Every track was a hit, and it wasn't just about the music. It was the visuals, the attitude, and the way she turned every release into a cultural moment. She wasn't just putting out albums, she was giving us an entire era to live in. It's extremely hard for an artist to have 5 #1 singles for one album. This is Katy's magnum opus because everything in terms of marketing, looks, gimmicks, and singles was right. Like literally everything went right for Katy. California Girls being the first single from the album had great mainstream appeal, but it really was the music video that sold the song. The sugary, sweet anthem celebrating the carefree, sun-soaked vibe of the West Coast and adding a little bit of razzle-dazzle to it by adding none other than Snoop Dogg to the song. The music video is an iconic candy-coated wonderland with whipped cream titties. I loved it. The second single's Teenage Dream was fun-loving and catchy, and then you have Firework.
Do you ever feel like
a plastic bag, which is still one of the funniest open lines for a song I've ever heard. But it showed Katy's vocal ability is really strong compared to how she usually sings. Then you have E.T. featuring Kanye West, which played with electronic sounds, followed by Last Friday Night, which was an attempt at tying Michael Jackson at 5 number ones for an album, which actually worked. The song was a hit and featured a cameo from Rebecca Black, which was to help draw in numbers for the video. Katy's aesthetic appeal was captivating and was a perfect depiction of 2010. That's why when the conversation came up on TikTok with people wondering how did Taylor Swift surpass Katy Perry as a huge pop star, it created a lot of discourse.
Where Taylor Swift is where Katy Perry should be. And no disrespect to Taylor Swift, but there's a lot more Taylor Swifts in the world than there are Katy Perrys. And I do believe that is why Taylor is put, there. Even though I like Taylor. If there was ever a pop star from the 2010s that people should be pawning over besides Hannah Montana, shout out my girl, it should be the one and only Katy Perry. Every race on the planet loves Teenage Dream. Every race. I Kissed a Girl and I Liked It. Fireworks? Nigga, Roar? I know a lot of people are gonna say, well, Katy just dropped off the face of the planet. If I could put my hand on your shoulder, I would. They probably have the same amount of work. They've probably put out the same amount in their discography, which further pushes my theory that I feel like because a lot of people look like Taylor Swift, have the same plain Jane aesthetic. This is nothing wrong. As Taylor Swift, she can be seen as a mirror image almost. There's somebody like Katy Perry with her aesthetic, like her stage presence, the stuff that she does is kind of hard to attribute to normal people. Am I using too many big words? Like I'm trying to sound smart and I'm really not. But yeah, I hope that makes sense.
And I actually agree. After Katy's Teenage Dream era, it's not like she didn't have hits after. For years now, Roar has been sitting at 1 billion views on YouTube and was played back to back on MTV in the mornings. Back when MTV actually helped artists chart and create global music sensations, showcasing iconic music videos that now fade into obscurity. But that's a topic for another day. Either way, it's not like Katy didn't relaunch her superstardom in her Prism era. As far as I know, Prism was a great predecessor to Teenage Dream, with Dark Horse and Roar being mega successful, both videos sitting at over 1 billion views. Prism was relatively a good album. And again, people didn't foresee a potential decline in Katy's career, but in terms of impact, Katy seemed like the artist that would hold the throne. She has been immensely successful in breaking records and dominating charts. You can also say the same thing about Taylor Swift, who I would say made soft impacts. And what I mean by that is when this TikToker said,
but there's a lot more Taylor Swifts in the world than there are Katy Perrys. And I do believe that is why Taylor is put,
he wasn't really lying. Katy Perry and Nicki Minaj in the late 2010s shared a unique cultural impact where their looks and gimmicks became just as iconic as their music. Both artists crafted larger-than-life personas that were impossible to ignore, blending outrageous fashion, bold aesthetics, and unmistakable signature styles. Their visuals weren't just a compliment to their music, they were a key part of their appeal, making them instantly recognizable and influencing everything from pop culture trends to Halloween costumes. Dressing up as Katy in her candy-coated Teenage Dream era, or Nicki during her Pink Friday phase, became a way for fans to embody the fun, theatrical energy these artists brought to the table. And that's what makes them memorable. And it came to a point where Nicki and Katy didn't feel like doing it anymore. Nicki dropped her pink wig for Pink Print, and Katy dropped her candy-coated persona with her Prism era. Taylor Swift is just Taylor Swift. Aside from the blonde hair, there are Taylor Swifts everywhere. Back around 2015, a lot of Taylor critics and fans noticed she was an alleged mean girl. She had a girl squad composed of Gigi Hadid, Selena Gomez, which was a cute group. However, over time, it drew criticism for perceived exclusivity and promoting unrealistic beauty standards. She did acknowledge it and come out in a Rolling Stone interviews doing damage control by saying, "I never would have imagined that people would have thought this is a clique that wouldn't want you sitting with us. I want it to be said loud and clear that it was not." Then the situation with Taylor's feud with Kanye West happened in 2016. Kanye released a song, Famous, containing the controversial lyric,
Know me best, I feel like me and Taylor might still have sex. Why? I made that bitch famous.
The song comes out and people didn't like how Kanye called Taylor a B or the SEX line, and the fact that there was a Taylor naked wax figure. Kanye was actually getting a lot of backlash for this. Kanye then came out and said that Taylor actually approved of the line, and then Taylor came out and said no, she didn't. Then Taylor made this speech.
There are going to be people along the way who will try to undercut your success or take credit for your accomplishments or your fame. But if you just focus on the work and you don't let those people sidetrack you, someday when you get where you're going, you'll look around and you will know that it was you and the people who love you who put you there. And that will be the greatest feeling in the world.
The situation escalated when Kim K released snippets of the recorded conversation suggesting Taylor's approval.
For all my Southside niggas that know me best, I feel like me and Taylor might still have sex.
Yeah, I mean, go with whatever line you think is better. It's obviously very tongue-in-cheek either way. And I really appreciate you telling me about it. That's really nice.
This led to a public backlash against Taylor, with many accusing her of dishonesty. Taylor responded by emphasizing that she never made aware of the specific language used in the song, particularly the derogatory term. Either way, Kim spoke out and Taylor was dragged online and had people putting snakes in her IG comments. So when it comes to the situation with Katy and Taylor, things were already tense between them, which started over backup dancers. These dancers left Taylor Swift tour to join Katy's. The tension led for Taylor to write Bad Blood, which was a mega success. She implied that the song was about another female artist who tried to mess with her tour by hiring away her backup dancers. Her fans obviously thought she was talking about Katy. Not long after, Katy dropped a tweet saying, "Watch out for the Regina George in sheep's clothing." Now we're gonna take a pause and talk about Katy's Witness era. Respectfully, I think the first problem with this era was her hair. Now I'm not sure if many people are aware of hair theory and how different styles can influence how someone is perceived. For example, Rihanna's Music Under the Sun transition to her Good Girl Gone Bad era. It worked for Rihanna because she was looking for more of an edge, but also because she can actually rock a pixie cut. And that's another unfortunate truth. As beautiful as Katy is, pixie cuts don't suit her face shape. And before y'all don't start banging your fingers to comment. There are hairstyles that just don't work for everybody. Remember when Beyonce cut her hair into a pixie cut? And as pretty as Beyonce is, we were all just like, eh. When people talk about Katy's Witness era, the first thing they really mention is her hair. It simply doesn't fit Katy's look. A blonde pixie cut, it just gives off Karen, not Katy. Katy looks better with longer hair and dark colors. When she had her dark purple hair for her Prism era, that looked good. When she did short hair, she did a medium blue bob. That looks great. She can experiment with so many styles that suit her, but her pixie cut just wasn't cutting it. For Katy, she wanted to present herself differently in this era, be taken more seriously, even though she basically did that in her Prism era, which was a more mature route. Katy's approach just didn't resonate with her fans. It came off cringy and try-hard. A fan of Katy commented about the album saying, "I liked Chained to the Rhythm, but as a casual listener, the rest of the album was kind of dull. I don't go to Katy Perry for introspection and social commentary. I go to Katy Perry because she can shoot whipped cream and fireworks out her boobs. Like, I know it's unfair for me to not expect her to grow up at all, but it feels like kind of phony for her to be singing about inequality or anything along those lines when the entire rest of her discography includes such hits as You're So Gay, but You Don't Even Like Boys. You PMS Like a Bee, and my total sexual deviant lesbian experience, but don't worry, I'm straight, I have a boyfriend." I miss when her aesthetic was hot pinup girl, not middle-aged mom trying to be hip with the kids. And they weren't entirely lying. Chained to the Rhythm along with Swish Swish were really the only memorable singles, and only one of them is good. Swish Swish is awfully cringy. The visuals to the song in general was mediocre. What made it worse though was it was a diss to Taylor that failed tremendously. Lines like "Your game is tired, you should retire" as shots to Taylor, but it didn't really matter because the song was just bad in general. Bon Appetit, on the other hand, even though it has mixed reviews, it's not awfully bad. It gives old Katy if you really listen to her music. It sounds like something she would have released in 2010. I think it was her cringy moves with the Migos and the fact that the Migos were on the song as to why it was a turnoff. Katy didn't look like she was having fun in this era compared to her previous eras, which is why people felt like it was inauthentic. She did a lot of promo that also didn't make sense to audiences, like her 4-day live stream, including a therapy session that became a very vulnerable moment for Katy, admitting that she wanted to go back to her old self, Katy Hudson.
I always just felt like I was called for more.
Call for more?
Yeah. And it was out there.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to get it. And so I guess I started singing. That's how I got there.
We sometimes are obliged to let go of old ways of doing things to have a larger life. And that's what happened.
Yeah.
That became Katy.
Yeah.
But Catherine is still carrying some...
Well, it's not gonna happen.
You call the word for me. What are the feelings?
I guess it's not gonna happen in one day, right?
No.
It's gonna be a process, and that's why
That's what therapy is, a process.
it's no destination.
Processing.
No, I'm just like, I guess that, like,
It's okay, Catherine.
I'm really strong as Katy Perry. Then sometimes I'm not as strong as Catherine Hudson, and like,
And Catherine doesn't have to be strong.
people like talk about my hair, right? And they don't like it, or they wish that like it was longer. And like, I so badly want to be Catherine Hudson that I don't even want to look like Katy Perry anymore. So
Even though Taylor dealt with backlash around this time, she was easily able to move forward. She didn't really deal with anything a lot of artists haven't dealt with before. It wasn't really career damaging, it was just another chapter for her. See, Taylor knows her audience, and she knows what they want and what they need. Her marketing is really amazing. Genius, might I say. What Taylor has been able to accomplish after a slight downfall really helped establish her as an impactful artist for her generation, a spot many thought Katy would fill. Her latest albums after haven't had the same monumental success as her previous albums, and we won't even talk about her most recent album, 143.
I had a really big shift. I had cut my hair because I didn't want to do this cutesy pinup girl thing that I had done previously. I wanted to really experiment with different sounds. I just wanted to go into a different zone as an artist, which I am first and foremost. And so I was like, well, how do I do that? Well, I'm going to change the look. I'm going to cut everything. And people that were used to being fed a certain thing, they got fed a different thing, and they're like, oh, that's different.
Right.
I like it, kind of. Right. I mean, like when I go to a restaurant and I like my favorite dish, like, don't change any ingredients.
Keep it right on the menu. I want this thing every
time.
But you're also a human being, and then you have talked to me about how you are a creative.
Yeah.
So it's like, wait, I do want to lightly try something different, and then people are like, and you're like,
yeah.
But how do you deal with that?
Well, it's my life, and that I'm gonna live it now. I'm almost 40, and this is my life.
But you guys let me know what you think down below on whether or not you think Katy should have been in Taylor's position as an artist. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. Toodles.